I stand frozen behind my father's office door, my breath caught in my throat like a trapped bird. The familiar scents of pine and cedar that usually comfort me now turn my stomach as his words filter through the crack. Transfer 25% of the shares to Vanessa. We need to finalize this in 6 weeks, before Cecily's birthday. My father's voice carries the same authoritative tone he uses during board meetings, confident, unyielding. The voice of a man who expects no resistance. And you're certain the original can't be contested? The attorney's question makes my blood run cold. Old man Armstrong made it conditional, but we've documented everything. Cecily hasn't met the leadership metrics. She's a worker, not an executive. The blood drains from my face, so quickly I have to grip the door frame to steady myself. My calloused fingers press against the polished wood, leaving faint smudges from the sawdust still clinging to my work clothes. Through the narrow opening, I can see my father's immaculate desk, not a paper out of place. Nothing like the organized chaos of my station downstairs. Grandfather promised me those shares. My heart pounds against my ribs, each beat a hammer strike. The room tilts slightly as I process what I'm hearing. What if she challenges it, the attorney asks. Dad laughs, the sound sharp enough to cut. Challenge what? We've kept her in operations for a reason. No leadership experience. No client relationships. No financial training. The board will see it our way. I press my palm against my chest, trying to slow my racing heart. My lungs can't seem to pull in enough air. 30% of timberline forestry, my inheritance, my birthright, being stolen right from under me, handed to my sister, who hasn't spent a single day on the mill floor. I back away silently, decades of moving through forests, making my retreat soundless despy. The roaring in my ears. The stairs down to the sawmill feel endless. Each step carries me further from the life I thought I had secured, the future my grandfather promised. The familiar symphony of machinery greets me as I push through the double doors to the production floor. The massive bandsaw screams through a Douglas fir. The planer whines as it smooths rough boards. The conveyors rumble under the weight of fresh timber. Sounds that once represented my heritage now feel hollow, mocking. I nod mechanically to Miguel at the sorting station as I pass, unable to form words. He's worked here 30 years longer than I've been alive and can grade lumber by touch alone. The employees respect me. They know I understand every inch of this operation. But upstairs, where decisions are made, my expertise means nothing. My mind drifts back to when I was 12, grandfather taking me into the forest at dawn. The memory is so vivid I can almost feel the morning dew soaking through my jeans as we hiked between towering trees. Look up, Cecily, he'd said, his weathered hand on my shoulder. What do you see? Trees. I'd answered, uncertain. He'd chuckled, the sound warm like sunlight filtering through branches. Legacy. 5 generations of Armstrongs have tended these forests. Your father sees dollar signs. Vanessa sees nothing at all. But you, he'd squeezed my shoulder. You're the only one who truly respects the craft. I beamed under his approval, soaking it in like a sapling in spring rain. His hands, strong, cracked from decades of work, had shown me how to read the grain, how to judge which trees were ready and which needed time. Forestry isn't just harvesting. It's stewardship. Months before he passed, he'd called me to his home office. His once powerful frame had shrunk, but his eyes remained sharp. You'll have to prove yourself, Cecily, but I've made provisions. When you turn 35, if you've met the metrics I've outlined, 30% of timberline becomes yours. I'd protested, not because I didn't want the responsibility, but because I knew how my parents would react. They'd always favored Vanessa. She's smarter and more creative, Mom would say when comparing our report cards, even though mine showed straight A's. You're just a worker, Dad would add, somehow making it sound like an insult rather than recognizing the value in what I did. The memory fades as I reach my small office tucked beside the kiln room. I close the door and sink into my chair, the worn leather conforming to my body, like an old friend. Evening finds me in my small apartment across town, pacing between the kitchenette and living room. The space is modest, all I need when I spend 14 hours a day at the mill. I pull out the keepsake box from under my bed, fingers trembling slightly as I lift the lid. Beneath photographs and childhood treasures lies a sealed envelope, my grandfather's will, the copy he insisted I keep. I break the seal for the first time, scanning the legal language until I find what I'm looking for. Upon reaching 35 years of age, provided operational efficiency metrics are maintained above industry standard for 3 consecutive years, Cecily Armstrong shall receive 30% voting shares in Timberline Forestry, LLC. The words blur as tears fill my eyes, not from sadness, but from a fury that's been building for years. Every weekend worked while Vanessa traveled Europe. Every idea stolen by my father and presented as his own. Every achievement attributed to management in company newsletters. I set the paper down and straighten my shoulders. In 6 weeks, I turned 35. For 10 years, I've sacrificed everything for this company, believing my time would come. I've been silent too long, compliant too long. Not anymore. I pick up my phone and make a call I should have made years ago. It's time to fight for what's rightfully mine. That night, I don't sleep at all. I skim the ancient terminal FO. For the 5th time tonight, squinting at the financial records from last quarter. The office building stands empty except for the security guard dozing in the lobby and my small desk lamp casting shadows across decades-old filing cabinets. 3 a.m. is the only time I can search without someone peering over my shoulder. The spreadsheet flickers on screen as I scroll down to production efficiency reports. My fingers hover over the keyboard as my eyes catch on a familiar achievement. Increase downstream efficiency by 18% while reducing waste by 22%. My project. My blood, sweat, and weekends for 6 straight months. But beside it, project led. Vanessa Armstrong. A laugh bubbles up, bitter as oversteeped coffee. I take a screenshot, add it to my growing collection. Not the first lie I've uncovered tonight. Not even the 10th. The screen blurs as my eyes water from exhaustion. Or maybe it's something else entirely. 3 years of quarterly reports tell the same story. Everything I've built, every improvement I've sweated over, accredited to others, primarily Vanessa. The evidence forms a pattern as clear as growth rings on old-growth pine. I close my eyes and see myself hunched over production schedules while Vanessa posted Instagram photos from Paris, Madrid, Santorini. My calloused hands flying over calculations while she held champagne flutes at business school galas, all funded by the company, by my labor. The memory of last February hits me like a physical blow. Jenna's wedding invitation still sits in my keepsake box. The regretfully declines box checked after Dad insisted I handle the emergency mill shutdown. 20 years of friendship. And I miss seeing my best friend walk down the aisle because a bearing had failed on the main saw. That's just your job, Cecily. Mom had said when I called, voice cracking with disappointment.
Just my job.
Never Van. S's. I shut down the computer and pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes. The betrayal isn't new, it's just finally documented. In black and white, irrefutable. Morning comes too quickly. I force myself through the mill floor inspection, nodding mechanically as Miguel shows me a great improvement on the oak shipment. When my phone buzzes with a meeting notification, I trudge upstairs like a condemned prisoner. The conference room smells of leather and my father's sandalwood cologne. Through the glass walls, I watch him gesturing expansively to 3 men in suits, board members and advisors I recognize from quarterly meetings. The restructuring gives us flexibility, Dad says, not noticing me in the doorway. Cecily runs operations smoothly, but Vanessa brings vision. When we shift controlling interest next month, we'll position for aggressive expansion without the traditional constraints. One advisor glances toward the door, spots me. Dad turns, his smile never reaching his eyes. Ah, Cecily, we were just discussing future planning. Nothing for you to worry about. Nothing for me to worry about. The same dismissal I've heard since childhood. I force a neutral expression and take a seat in the corner, watching him continue as if I were invisible. The perfect metaphor for my 34 years at Timberline did I escape as soon as possible, fleeing to the sanctuary of sawdust and machinery. My phone buzzes again. Vanessa, summoning me to lunch tomorrow. Lovely. The next day, I arrive at Riverfront Bistro 10 minutes early. Vanessa saunters in 20 minutes late, designer sunglasses pushed into hair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Cecily. She air kisses near my cheek. God, you smell like wood chips. Don't you shower between shifts? I bite back the obvious retort about where our paychecks come from and force a smile. What's up, Vanessa? She orders a $60 bottle of wine before addressing me. Daddy wants me to get more familiar with the operational side before the transition. What transition? Vanessa's perf. Kate stares into her coffee for a long moment, then meets my eyes. When they fired me, I kept copies. Every safety violation I refused to cover up. Every time your father ordered me to falsify reports. She leans forward. OSHA violations, EPA shortcuts, labor law breaches. All of it, Cecily. My heart pounds against my ribs. Why didn't you report them? Your grandfather was good to me. I couldn't destroy his company. Her eyes narrow. But Harold and Vanessa? I owe them nothing. I think about what's at stake. 30% voting control of a company worth millions. My birthright. But also my family, the parents who've consistently undermined me, the sister who expects everything handed to her. Would you be willing to help me? I ask quietly. Kate reaches into her bag, slides a USB drive across the table. I've been waiting 3 years for you to ask that question. The drive feels impossibly heavy in my palm. I close my fingers around it, feeling something shift inside me. A boundary breaking, a line crossed. What are you going to do? Kate asks. I think of my grandfather's will, the company he built, the legacy he entrusted to me. Whatever it takes. 3 days later, the company newsletter sits on my desk like a landmine. The glossy paper, emblazoned with Timberline's evergreen logo, announces the future leadership transition in bold letters. My coffee grows cold as I read the article for the 3rd time, each word a deliberate slap. Vanessa Armstrong brings fresh perspective and professional management to position Timberline for the next generation. No mention of my decade of service. No acknowledgement of the operational improvements I've implemented. Just paragraph after paragraph praising Vanessa's MBA and innovative vision for a company she visits maybe twice a month. I shove the newsletter into my desk drawer, where I keep all the other evidence of my systematic erasure. My phone buzzes with a text from our sales director. Your father and Vanessa just left with the Westridge account. Harold introduced her as the future of Timberline. Thought you should know. Westridge is our biggest client. I negotiated that contract renewal myself last year, spending weekends preparing the sustainability documentation they required. Now Vanessa gets to smile and shake hands while I'm buried in sawdust. The mill whistle blares, signaling the afternoon shift change. I grab my hard hat and head to the floor, forcing my face into neutral. The workers don't need to see my anger. They have enough to worry about with the shortcuts my father insists on taking, Cecily. Miguel calls from the grading station, waving urgently. The new batch from Robert's lot is jamming the head rig. I jog across the concrete floor, the familiar symphony of machinery surrounding me. The massive bandsaw sits silent, operators standing back as foreman Ben Johnson examines the problem. The automated feeds misaligned again, Ben says, frustration evident. 3rd time this week. I survey the situation, mentally calculating angles and adjustments. The moisture content's too high in this batch. The scanner's not compensating. I reach for the manual controls, fingers finding the right settings through muscle memory. We need to recalibrate for the higher density, or we'll keep getting jams. Within minutes, I've adjusted the feed rate, blade tension, and angle parameters. The saw hums back to life, smoothly processing logs that had defeated 3 men with decades of experience, then gives me a respectful nod. Tried calling your father about this issue last week. He said to follow the standard protocol. Standard protocol doesn't account for old-growth Douglas fir with this moisture profile, I reply, wiping sawdust from my arms. That's why we come to you first now, Miguel says quietly, so only I can hear. You know the wood. You respect it. His words echo my grandfather's so perfectly that my throat tightens. I manage a smile and turn away, suddenly seeing what's been invisible to me until now. These men, the heart of Timberline, they trust me. Not my father, not Vanessa. A strange new feeling unfurls in my chest as I walk back to my office. It's not quite confidence, something stronger. Recognition of my own worth, independent of my family's validation. The realization carries me through my mother's stilted family dinner that evening, where she fawns over Vanessa's new summer house while asking me to pass the potatoes. It shields me when Vanessa smirks and mentions, finally bringing professional management to modernize our outdated operations. What exactly do you find outdated? I ask, surprising everyone, including myself, with a direct question. Vanessa blinks, fork pausing halfway to her mouth. Well, everything's so manual. We could automate more, streamline processes. Which processes specifically? My father clears his throat. Cecily, your sister has studied modern business approaches. I'm genuinely curious, I interrupt, voice steady. Which processes at the mill would you automate? What's your approach to varying moisture content in old-growth timber? How would you adjust cutting patterns to maximize yield while maintaining structural integrity? Silence falls across the dining room. Vanessa's mouth opens, then closes. My mother laughs nervously. Goodness, Cecily, this isn't a board meeting. No, I agree, I say, setting down my napkin. It's just the future of our company. Later that night, I meet Kate at her cabin outside of town. The former safety manager was fired 3 years ago after refusing to falsify inspection reports. My father called it restructuring. Everyone else called it what it was, retaliation. Kate's dining table disappears beneath stacks of documents as we sort through years of violations she documented before termination. Look at this pattern, she says, pushing her reading glasses up. OSHA violations in the same areas year after year. Your father would fix just enough to pass inspection, then revert back. I trace my finger across a timeline she's created. Environmental shortcuts, too. These effluent readings from the treatment pond exceed permitted levels by 300% during high production months, Kate finishes. I flagged every single one. And got fired for your trouble, I murmur. Your grandfather would be ashamed of what they've done, Kate says softly. He built Timberline on integrity. He taught us all that responsible forestry meant doing right by the land and the people. Tears spring to my eyes unexpectedly. He trusted me to be strong enough for this. The words hang in the air between us. For the first time, I speak aloud what I've been afraid to acknowledge. This isn't just about my inheritance. It's about honoring my grandfather's vision for Timberline. Kate reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. You don't have to fight them from the inside, What do you mean? I've got 5 acres out here, room for a portable band sawmill, small kiln. We could start something new, something honest. In a major. I've got 5 acres out here. My heart thuds at the suggestion. You mean? A partnership. Kate's eyes gleam. Armstrong and Lawson Fine Woodworking. We create custom pieces from sustainably harvested timber. I've got the land. You've got the expertise. I can't just abandon Timberline, I say, though the possibility sends an unexpected thrill through me. Not abandoning. Creating leverage. Kate sorts through another pile of documents. If you have options, you negotiate from strength. The next morning, my phone rings with an unfamiliar number. The attorney I contacted yesterday, Marcus Winters, sounds impressed as He reviews my grandfather's will. These KPIs have been met and exceeded for the past 3 years, he confirms. The operation's efficiency metrics, sustainability benchmarks, employee retention rates. You've hit every target. The shares are legally yours, Ms. Armstrong. I grip the phone tighter. My father claims I haven't met the leadership requirements. The will doesn't specify leadership in the way they're interpreting it, Marcus explains. It requires operational leadership, which you've clearly demonstrated. Your grandfather was quite specific about measuring outcomes, not titles. After the call, I drive out to my grandfather's favorite stand of old-growth forest. The ancient trees tower overhead, their massive trunks wider than my car. This parcel, which he refused to harvest, stands as his monument. I rest my palm against the rough bark of a Douglas fir that was old when the Declaration of Independence was signed. Above me, sunlight filters through branches that have weathered centuries of storms. The strongest trees weather the harshest storms. My grandfather used to say, his weathered hand patting the trunk just as mine does now. Standing here, surrounded by these quiet giants, clarity washes over me. I've been so focused on what I might lose that I failed to recognize what I already possess. Knowledge no business school could provide, loyalty from workers who respect skill over titles, and the true understanding of stewardship my grandfather valued above all else. I don't need my family's approval to honor his legacy. That evening, I climbed the stairs to my small apartment, bone-tired but resolute. As I set my keys on the counter, my gaze falls on a cardboard box I haven't opened since the funeral. My grandfather's personal effects, which no one else wanted. Something compels me to open it now, inside, beneath old photographs and a worn flannel shirt that still smells FAI. And TLY of cedar and pipe tobacco, I find a leather-bound journal I've never seen before. My hands tremble as I open it, recognizing my grandfather's precise handwriting. The journal spans decades, documenting his observations about the business and about his family. Page after page reveals his concerns about my father's shortcuts, his disappointment in Vanessa's disinterest in the craft, his growing certainty that I alone understood what Timberline should be. The final entry, dated just weeks before his death, reads, "Cecily alone has the wisdom to steward this legacy. I've arranged for her to have the means, if she finds the courage. The trees have taught her patience and resilience. Now she must learn to stand tall against the wind." I closed the journal, pressing it to my chest as if I could absorb his faith in me. Tomorrow I'll meet with Marcus again. Tonight, I allow myself to feel the anger and determination that will fuel what comes next. I am my grandfather's heir in more than shares. I am the keeper of his vision. And I will not be cut down without a fight. Another week passes by, and during this time, I am working with Kate secretly to protect grandfathers and my legacy. One Tuesday morning, I arrive at the mill before dawn, my truck the first in the parking lot as usual. The early morning quiet allows me to think clearly, to move methodically through my plans without interruption. My grandfather's journal sits heavy in my bag, its worn leather cover a reminder of the legacy I'm fighting for. For 2 weeks I've been building my case. Every violation, every stolen idea, every manipulation, all meticulously documented in folders color-coded by severity, red for safety violations that could shut us down, blue for labor issues that would trigger investigations, green for the environmental shortcuts that would horrify our sustainability-conscious clients. Kate's voice echoes in my head as I unlock my office. "They've underestimated you for years, Cecily. Use that." I spread the documents across my desk, each page a weapon in my arsenal. My phone buzzes with a text from Kate. "Got the final inspection reports. Meeting at 4? I type back quickly. "Perfect." Bringing the contract comparisons. Our side business, Armstrong and Lawson Fine Woodworking, has become more than just a safety net. It's become a statement of independence, a declaration that my skills have value beyond these walls. The mill roars to life around me as workers arrive. Miguel knocks on my doorframe, his weathered face serious. "Your father left new cutting instructions," he says, handing me a clipboard. "Makes no sense with what we've got in inventory." I scan the document, immediately spotting the problem. "Ignore these. Follow yesterday's plan." I hand him the correct specifications. "And Miguel? Document any pressure to change course." He nods, understanding flowing between us, without words. The loyalty of people like Miguel has become my greatest strength, something my father never bothered to cultivate. By mid-morning, the first counterattack arrives. Dad strides onto the production floor, Vanessa trailing behind in inappropriate heels that click against the concrete. She's dressed for a boardroom, not a sawmill, in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Cecily," I need you to turn over operations to Vanessa for the Westlake contract, Dad announces, loud enough for nearby workers to hear. She'll be handling client relations moving forward. The machines seem to quiet, workers pausing to watch this power play unfold. I notice 3 of them subtly positioning themselves closer, witnesses to whatever happens next. The Westlake specs require custom cutting patterns. I respond calmly. I've already programmed the sequence. Vanessa's smile tightens. I've been briefed on the requirements. Dad thinks it's time I handle more operational oversight. Before I can respond, my phone rings. Westlake's Percha.